Hello and welcome to Talkin' Baseball. Corbin Burnes to the Snakes and Dodgers obviously re-signed Teoscar too. Let's talk all about it. Let's talk ball.
Corbin Burnes cutter.
Gleyber Torres.
Ground ball to second.
Ground out. Hello and welcome to Talkin' Baseball, presented to you by SeatGeek, code TALKIN10, as we have a couple days left in 2024, and Corbin Burnes and the Snakes are ending it on a high note. Trev, we'll tell the people, we have no ad obligations this show. We're just doing it for the people and for baseball, because Corbin Burnes, with one of the more surprising free agent signings in kind of recent history, 6 years, $210 million. He gonna have a basement, coach.
He is out there in Scottsdale. And I think that's kind of one of the biggest things we'll probably talk about with Corbin. You know, a lot of times I think that we as fans and people who are fans of the sport just think, hey, these guys are chasing the money. And I've said that before. Like, there's a lot of guys that are doing that, and when the situation calls for it, you want to bring that AAV up for you, for the next guy behind you. But then there's sometimes, like I think what happened here with Corbin Burnes. Look, he's got 3 kids now. I believe his wife just had twins. He lives in the Scottsdale area. When you have the opportunity to make that kind of money, play on a really good team with the Diamondbacks, and get to stay close to home, plus the taxes, like everything kind of made sense for Corbin. So when people are saying, oh, well, maybe he's going to go to the Red Sox and they went out and got Crochet and Buehler, or maybe he's going to go to, a team on the East Coast, whatever it may be, sometimes it just boils down to Corbin Burnes is trying to have it all right now. He's trying to be at home with his family, raise his young kids. They offered him, that's a substantial amount. He gets the opt-out after 2 years, which I think is important. But like I said, when you get this opportunity to just be at home for the majority of the season and spring training, sometimes that just, it takes over. You don't chase the last $10 million. You say, I'm going to stay at home and it's going to be great for me and my family.
Yeah, it's the tax part is interesting. We don't hear about that a ton in baseball, and maybe part of that is because baseball's Florida teams don't really spend. Like the Rays and the Marlins, they're kind of insignificant in a lot of free agent talks. That I think it's funny in the NBA, it's a thing. Like the Miami Heat or the Texas teams, they're often very attractive for some of the tax reasons that you're right. I mean, Corbin Burnes went to have his cake and more cake and a little lasagna over here, and he got it all. And I think the biggest surprise is that the Diamondbacks are willing to do this, because this is one of the biggest contracts we've seen in the sport. It's the largest in D-backs franchise history, which it's actually not as crazy as maybe you might think. Zac Greinke signed there for 6 years, $206 in 2016. Zac Greinke's career is one of the more bizarre things. Your friend, Zac Greinke.
My friend.
We'll close the show with that story. That's so funny. But man, I mean, like, we're talking, it's behind Steven Strasburg for the 6th largest ever AAV for a starting pitcher. Scherzer, Verlander, Wheeler, DeGrom, and Cole. So congrats to Corbin Burnes, a guy, the famous John Boy pulling his hamstring as a sausage person. Corbin Burnes was talking about his free agency then. That was 21, 22. So for him to finally get the payday, and the fact it's with the Diamondbacks and in Arizona with his family, with less taxes, crazy. And if I was a fan of Toronto or a couple of the other teams that came down to it, if Arizona's going to have this money, because Trev, they're one of the regional sports networks team that they're not sure about that revenue. Hey, the Snakes are here to play, man.
Yeah, I mean, they won 89 games last year. So, like, I want people to readjust what they're thinking about the Snakes. They just missed the playoffs the year before. They're in the World Series. I mean, this is a team that had the best offense in all of baseball last year, which is kind of crazy to say. And where they actually struggled was, their pitching, their starting pitching, their bullpen. Zac Gallen was hurt for a little bit, but, fought kind of, took a step backwards. Merrill Kelly didn't have a great year. He only pitched 13 games. Like, bringing in a guy like Corbin obviously stabilizes that. I know they lost Christian Walker. I know they lost, Jock Peterson had a huge year too. But this is a team that's going to compete. And I do want to touch on the taxes things. I feel like people are like, "Well, okay, I think it's 4% state income tax in Arizona. California's 13. Canada, I don't even know what it is. I think it's more than that. I think it's the highest in the big leagues. But you get taxed on where you earn the money. So 81 games, he'd be taxed at that 4% rate in Arizona. And then, he's going to get taxed at the 13% rate when he plays in San Francisco, when he plays in LA, when he plays in San Diego. Colorado, I think it's like 9%. So, like, you're getting taxed at all these different places. You got to have a good accountant for that. But for the majority of the games, yeah, he'll save money because he is playing in Arizona. I don't have. Do we have signing bonus or any specifics on the contract yet?
Let me see. I can click around what Dalton threw on our sheet. Dalton,
23 million. No, that's Teoscar.
who does our stats and sheets, and you guys might also know him from Warehouse Games and a lot of stuff at John Boy Media. A true Diamondbacks fan. I just became friendly with their social media account. He was on cloud 9 last night, man, and this was a shock, man. I mean, the Snakes offseason was supposed to be, are they going to dump Monty? Are they going to dump Erod? Like, I saw some Diamondbacks accounts that were like, if we sign Kirby Yates, is this offseason a success? And they bring in Corbin Burnes. Like, he was the top starting pitcher piece.
I'm curious what the other offers were, because there are some reports that the Giants and the Blue Jays offered more. I want to know how much more.
Right.
It's very interesting. And again, I think sometimes, when you're a young dad like Corbin, you just start to think about, like, okay, like, and $200 million is a lot of money. And it's whatever this is, 210 or 230, they kind of all start to meld together, if you will. And then you have the opportunity, like I said, to play at home and just kind of, it starts to eat away at your brain. His wife was probably saying, "Hey, it'd be nice to have you around a little bit." Then you start to think about these things, and man, like, it makes a ton of sense to me, when you really, really break it down. I think a lot of times, again, we just forget about the family aspect, and we're trying to play like fantasy baseball with these free agent signings. It's like, dude, these guys are humans too, and who wouldn't want to be around their, he's got 2 twin girls they just had this summer. So it's good for Corbin, man. I'm very, very excited for him.
Yeah, and it's, we were laughing before with producer Rob Scirocco because we were going through our free agency draft and looking how bad we're doing, because it's just a losing objective, because one domino falls one way and then everything else. I mean, in the first domino was Soto. He went to the Mets, and that moved Max Fried, which moved everyone. Corbin Burnes kind of didn't have a clear landing spot. Like, it was kind of the Mets. We thought they were in play because this was the Mets' big offseason and they're going to bolster this. They've seemingly moved a lot of their attention to the lineup, and I don't know. I guess starting pitcher Frankie Montas, Clay Holmes with an opportunity to start, and Manaea, obviously. The Baltimore Orioles, which I don't know if we want to get there, but everyone was wondering, okay, new owners, they said they're going to be different. If it wasn't those 2 teams, which it turned out it wasn't, it was looking like it was going to be a mystery team of sorts. And I know, unfortunately, that's become a joke in the baseball lexicon. But the D-backs were the mystery team, and them being in Arizona, Trev, I have no idea, like, how did that happen? Did Corbin Burnes say, "Hey, Diamondbacks, like, if you can get me into the 200 area code, I'm down to dance"?
Yeah, he probably went to his agent and said, "Hey, like, this is interesting to me. Go see what kind of figure they're willing to put out there." As always, Bob Nightengale and I are in lockstep.
Right.
The Baltimore Orioles were also aggressive in their pursuit to keep Corbin Burnes, but the opportunity for Burnes to stay at his home in Phoenix during spring training and the regular season meant more than chasing the last dollar. Bob and I get it, dude. We understand the family aspect right there.
Dude, the spring training thing also shouldn't go over people's heads. I've talked to a few players. I'm obviously not super connected, but that's a big thing. Like, if you're a West Coast person or a Florida person, if the team plays spring training in the opposite location, you kind of don't want to be there, and then you have to live somewhere else. Like, I think that's a huge part of this. Never mind the game checks and 81 games, but for that month and a half, 2 months of spring training, you're just living at home. Like,
You
that's
live at home.
massive.
That's insane to me because I never obviously have to experience that. Typically, you move 3 times a year when you're playing baseball, and it's look, yeah. Can you pay people to move stuff for you? Sure, but it's not. It's just added
Right.
stress on your family. And again, I think that clearly it played a huge part in this. I am curious: were the Diamondbacks engaged, or did Corbin
Right.
say, guys, like, I'm thinking about this. What do you got for me? Because the reports were they were trying to stay kind of like stagnant with their payroll.
Right.
They were going to dump Montgomery. They're still trying to trade him, I'm sure. But all of a sudden now, payroll goes up, I believe, to the highest level it's been. But if you have an opportunity to bring in a guy like Corbin Burnes when you won 89 games with, let me see these numbers here.
Mm.
The 27th ERA in baseball, 25th whip from your starting pitchers, 25th ERA, 27th whip for your relief pitchers. Like, you need some pitching. You won 89 games because of what your offense did. And Corbin Burnes is calling you saying, well, allegedly, we're saying this, calling saying, I want to play for your team. You take the call and you make the offer. That's what you do.
Well, that's what I wanted. A couple shout outs that we don't traditionally do on this show. Ken Kendrick, the Diamondbacks owner,
Shout
who
out.
unfortunately we've made some wise cracks at this offseason because he had the Jordan Montgomery quote that was like,
No, I thought that was hilarious.
I mean, it was wild. I guess we just kind of haven't seen that from owners. That it was like, we're gonna get rid of this guy, which let's see how the offseason plays out there. But the D-backs, man, like you said, take away the franchise name. They're a new franchise. I got this hat I'm wearing. I was laughing when I put it on. It was their 25th anniversary hat. Like, this is a baby franchise. But if you take away that name, and like you said, 89 wins last year, World Series the year before that, they just signed someone from 200 mil. They're not sure about their TV contract, but Trev, it seems like apparently they've got enough money to spend that if you're a fan of one of the quote unquote smaller market teams, reminder, San Diego, small market. They went out and they got every free agent for a couple years. San Diego, I'm not even ready to talk about that because we got to talk about Teoscar and the Dodgers in a minute. What's going on there? But shout out to Ken Kendrick for getting it done. And dude, so as I got sucked into Diamondbacks culture, um, like, Phoenix has been a city that over the past 25 years has blown up. Like, just as a city and with their sports teams, that I don't know, the future for Arizona sports should be like, between taxes, between the weather, between like that just being a booming area, it should become like a great sports city. And I don't know, the D-backs are like making strides to do that.
People love it there. They really do. Especially if you're, if you're from, I mean this like in the nicest way possible. If you're from California, a lot of Californians actually end up moving
Yeah.
there because of the taxes. But if you're from, I don't want to offend
Here we
anybody.
go.
Nebraska,
Okay.
Indiana. Okay. I know how to cool this down a little bit. It's hard to train in the off season, so you need a warm
Right.
weather place. A lot of people end up there because spring training's there. It is a ton of fun. Olivia and I thought about moving there for tax purposes. We ended up not doing it because we just love California so much. But Jake, let me sell you on a little dream here before we get into
Okay.
Teoscar. Your offense, one of the best offenses in baseball last year, if not the best. I believe we can confidently say it was the best offense in baseball last year. You lose some people, but you still, you like what you have there.
Sure.
Now you have Corbin Burnes and Zac Gallen at the top of your rotation, okay? A full year of Merrill Kelly. And then you have guys you can kind of dream upon. Fott didn't have a great year last year, ended up with a 4.7 over 32 games. But as a fifth starter, I think I like him. You bring in, we'll see what happens with Jordan Montgomery. He's probably going to get shed for some payroll, right? But you have some depth there with the starting pitchers, okay? And then you kind of found a guy in Justin Martinez last year throwing just absolute pills up there, closing out games. You still have Ginks. You still got Ryan Thompson there. You trade for AJ Puck last year.
Right.
Like, on paper, this roster is pretty damn good. And I'm sure Corbin was like, oh, like, it's a pretty good roster, plus all these other things. And I think that's what made the decision, man. I really think people, and we did it I did it definitely last year. At the middle of the year, I said, are they going to trade some of these guys? Because they got off to a really, really slow start, and then they started to pick it up. But I think this team is better than a lot of people give it credit for, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, they, like you said, they missed the playoffs by one game or whatever that last day, the Mets Braves crazy doubleheader. That they would have been back in the dance and a scary team to play with that offense. I think the interesting part now, well, there's a few interesting parts for the Diamondbacks for me. They did the Josh Naylor trade, which we talked about, and that replaces a chunk of either Christian Walker or Jock Peterson. In my head, it's Jock, because now the big question mark for me is how do they replace Christian Walker? Because like we oozed and ahs, and he became everyone's favorite free agent because of how good he was on both sides of the ball. It's tough for me to picture them going to Josh Naylor because defensively he's mediocre at best at first base. That I'm curious to see that finish out because that's kind of the missing piece right now. And I wonder, could that come in a Jordan Montgomery flip? Could that come somewhere else? Or Trev, Diamondback fans don't want to hear this, and I'm not even saying this, so that's the good news. I think Zac Gallen's on the last year of his contract. Like, what if, okay, just deep theory, Jake, what if Corbin Burnes comes to them and is like, hey, if you get me to 200, I'm in. And they were maybe either considering that money for Zach or maybe they weren't. I don't know. Like, they can get very creative now because they have some pitching ammo that it's probably just Monty and maybe they turn him into a first baseman and that's it. That's all. But I don't know. I don't know what their game plan is with Zac Gallen, who Zach was probably like, hey, why don't you just extend me for that price?
Montgomery, $22.5 million player option that he picks up, obviously. They're trying to get that off the books. If you get, a majority of that off, do you go try to, like you said, go get another bat? The Zac Gallen thing is very, very interesting to me because he's a very, very good pitcher. He's going to demand probably the same contract around there, right?
Probably.
Sheesh. Interesting, man. I don't know. Obviously, Corbin Burnes kind of locks up that ace spot for the next couple of years because he has that opt out. But yeah, they have decisions. I think they see how this year goes. And you're right you talked about the TV model. They were direct to consumer all year last year as well.
Right.
So they have, I guess, now an idea of what they're going to be bringing in as far as revenue from that. So that's interesting. I saw someone talking about, the Dodgers, it's unfair because they get this big TV deal and that's how they're able to spend all this money. And there was a comment saying, well, that's what happens when you go out and you put stars on the field. You can demand this type of money for your TV deal. I mean, look, the Angels are in Los Angeles as well. They're not getting the same thing because they have Mike Trout and they had Shohei, but they didn't win. They didn't surround them with talent enough. And the Dodgers have consistently done that. So people want to watch. And if you're a businessman, sometimes, the old adage, you got to spend money to make money. Like maybe you talked about Scottsdale and kind of the sports city that it's up and coming. If you go out there and put a winning product on the field, that is how you get people to watch. And if you suck, that's when people don't watch. Like that's analytics. TV analytics for you right there.
Bring us in as private contractors to your sports team, because
am I wrong though? Am I freaking wrong?
No, man. Because I said this a couple episodes ago. The best way to bring in revenue is have a winner.
Yeah.
Golden State, that whole thing. I'm not going to give the whole speech again, but like, hey, these Diamondbacks went to the World Series 2 years ago. They got to see those financials. I'd like to think that's connected a little bit. And that the Diamondbacks are like, hey, so if we pack this place with people and we go to the World Series and we sell merch and we do all of it, like this can be great for the business. I hope that's what's happening. And again, I hope
Well,
what's that?
Phoenix is 12th in the U.S. as far as like TV regions, according to Nielsen.
Going on the Nielsen
Google
ratings there.
I don't know if that's good or bad for our argument. 12th seems a little.
No clue. I have no clue how any of that works. Let's see the next move for the Snakes. I guess comment below. It's probably flipping Jordan Montgomery for a first baseman, whoever that is. So if someone knows that trade, I haven't dug through the weeds yet to find it, but that would make a lot of sense to me. So let's see what the Snakes do. That's kind of their missing piece at this point, is replacing Christian Walker in my head. Maybe they already have done that and Naylor is going to play first and they just need a DH and that's easier to find. Okay, you could talk me into that. But the D-backs are looking like another strong team. And dude, Corbin Burnes, Zac Gallen, Martin, like you said, come playoff time, is if this team hits like last year and they can pitch with those guys, the Diamondbacks are a real threat. Especially the Padres haven't done their work yet. The Giants have done work. The Coastal Elites, man, they're having an off season, Trev.
Is it as simple as just like Lawler at short, Eugenio goes to first, and then Naylor's the DH, and I don't know. I think you're right. If you bring in another right-handed bat, be into that.
There's an easy move to be made. It's bringing a right-handed hitting DH, which those guys are out there. Justin Turner, JD reunion, do it again. You love the olds.
I love the old guys, coaches. Yeah,
have JD coach all those young guys. I think that's it. Okay, Naylor, you're playing first.
Boom.
I just got talked into it. Trev, the other one that happened, I think it happened right before Burnes, and everyone was like, "Yeah, here we go again." The Dodgers re-signed Teoscar. Teoscar Hernandez is going back to the Dodgers. 3 years, $66 million, $22 million a year, $15 million club option that fourth year with a $6.5 million buyout. So I think Teoscar is going to be there for 4 more years. 4 more years. And man, I don't know. Sometimes we just talked about the business of the sport. You guys now know that Phoenix Scottsdale is the 12th largest consumer TV market. But we still like to romanticize dude, Teoscar was really about LA. And that's easy to say when it's LA, it's 1 year, they won the World Series. But Teoscar was really about LA with that crowd. And they're the Dodgers, dude. And everything we're saying about money and TV deals or whatever, they have now blown past the highest tax threshold. I think they're sitting at $353 million, which means they're paying basically 110% on every dollar over $301 million. So the Dodgers do have real money to spend, and who knows if they're done.
They have to be done, dude. They have to be done. I don't know. Look, I think it was a no-brainer for them to bring him back. Obviously, I think Teoscar wanted to come back. He was searching for that dollar amount because he's coming off a career year, all those things. But he fit the mold. He was the Heart and Hustle award winner for them. Sure. You talked about him really embracing like being a Dodger, and I'm gonna say something here. Dominican dude, right?
Okay.
Loves like a Latin culture, a Spanish culture, if you will. Toronto, a very worldly place, but I don't know how much is up there. Seattle, right. I don't know how much is up there. You come to LA, and I feel like it probably felt a little bit more like home, like a little bit more comfortable for him. And you get to play with all these guys. You're surrounded in the lineup. You're getting better pitches to hit. Like everything kind of worked out. And yeah, to me, it almost seemed like it was going to happen. It was a no-brainer for both sides to bring him back because now you have who is the outfield? Teoscar in left, Tommy Edman in center, and they signed Conforto to play
Why not?
right. So you have James Outman on the bench, which I love that guy. I think he's like going to settle in and be a damn good ball player. So Mookie's, I'm just putting all this together in my head on the fly. Mookie's at short.
I think they've
Short or
said
second?
Mookie's going to play second.
Okay, so then you either have Miggy. Okay, so
But
then you can do all
I
sorts.
don't
You can put
know.
Tommy at short. You can put. They're so versatile. What's going? That's crazy. They can run this lineup so many different ways because Mookie Betts can play all these different positions. So Tommy could be at short. James could be out there in center field. Mookie at second. Then you have Gavin Lux, Miggy Rojas on the bench. Chris Taylor on the bench. Good for the Dodgers, man. Good for the Dodgers.
They Rob's saying that Betts is going to start the year as a shortstop. I mean, I feel like we did this last year, and I feel like it ended up not mattering.
Well, Lux kind of struggled
Right
at the beginning of last year and in spring training, but he came on in the second half of last year. So maybe that's what they're thinking.
But haven't they also had quotes recently that are like, we want less wear and tear on Mookie? So now we're just going to put him back at, like, how many times have we done is right field or second base easier on the body game? And we still kind of don't have a perfect answer.
Mookie made some plays out there in the outfield during the playoffs last year too that was like saving runs. Oh man, I kind of like him better in the outfield if we're being honest.
I do too. He's one of the best right fielders.
There's no spot for him now. They signed too many guys. He's got to play infield.
Dude, the Conforto thing is nuts. And that wasn't like, hey, 1 year, $5 million. Let's see if Conforto can tap in. Like, I think Conforto got. Yes, dude.
What do you do with all these guys?
They're like, they might trade, but I was just gonna say they might trade him. But what else would they bring in? Because this is the whole game. Like, there's not a lot of room.
Or Andy Paz for like a reliever. These are like young, controllable kids who have like
a great reliever. Those are young ball players with years of control.
They don't need any starting pitching. So here's what I mentioned to you, and Dodgers fans, let us know. Austin Barnes, great guy. I think he's a good clubhouse guy. People love him. Could they bring in a backup catcher that helps out a little bit more? They wouldn't trade one of those guys for. I'm just saying. Like you're saying, where can they go from here? Like maybe that's one move they could do. Christian Vasquez, come get him from the Twins. He's open.
Stop trying to trade Christian Vasquez to other teams.
I love Vasquez.
I know.
I don't want him to be traded. They just keep saying they're going to trade him.
Austin Barnes has been there a while. That would. It's weird that the Dodgers. It feels like they kind of do every. Like, how long has Austin Barnes been a Dodger?
I'm looking right now because you're right. I think since 2015.
Like, that's nuts, bro. Like, we don't.
10 years.
Like, I think there's some Dodgers fans listening to this and like, get rid of Austin Barnes.
Wait, is he a free agent? He's a free agent.
Oh, it has him on the roster.
I know, but it says free agent in 2025. There's a team option. So did they pick it up?
As far as I'll always know, Austin Barnes is a Dodger.
Yeah, someone, Rob, can you look up if they've picked up the team option on Austin Barnes? It's $3.5 million.
I mean, he's on their fan graph, so I'm assuming so. We'll have Rob check in on that. Yeah, for the Dodgers, Snell. Okay, they signed Snell. Reminder. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Glasnow, Gonsolin and May are supposed to be back. Ohtani is pitching this year. And they've got they have 4 prospects who are probably better than your prospects who are out for all of next year. Kyle Hurt, River Ryan, Sheehan, and Stone. What do they do?
You got me thinking now with the Twins Dodgers. They've linked up before. I'm being serious, and I don't mean this like I don't want any of this to happen because I want the Twins to be competitive, but they've talked about shopping Duran, they've talked about shopping Jax. You know, they're kind of like in the market, like everyone's available, for being honest.
Yeah.
What, like one of those big dog relievers coming over to the Dodgers for one of these guys we just talked about?
Yes. Yeah. So that's good. That's good for the rest of baseball. Um,
Don't be one
my
of those
God,
people.
they Dodgers are they just on another level? Like baseball doesn't really work like that. We know that. But like for a team to run it back, I guess I'd have to check myself because I was talking myself into the Braves. I was like, these Braves are really good. They might just run it back. And then baseball kind of reared its ugly head. The Dodgers, they're adding a lot of new pieces. Shohei's going to pitch this year. Like, imagine if they were in the American League, we'd be talking about it like no contest.
So I've been playing. Santa brought Teddy and I the PS5
Wow.
and a dog. I mean, what a freaking
Oh,
yeah, no kidding, huh? Um, I've been playing Fortnite with my kids.
okay.
So the Dodgers, if you know Fortnite, it's like you got all the ammo, plus you got like the slurp juice and some bandages. Like
Yeah.
even if they get shot a few times,
Right.
bandage, slurp juice, they're back. That's
Oh,
depth, people. That's depth. That's what the Dodgers have. And you talked about like, yeah, for the Braves, they got bit by injuries. The Dodgers, they can get bit by how many injuries can they sustain and still
right.
go? Like a lot. Like to their starters, to their relievers, to their position players. Like they have a roster full of starting capable players. Like they
Yeah.
are they're stacked.
They can lose Mookie, Freddie, or Shohei and be okay.
Yeah.
Like Max Muncy, Will Smith, Teoscar, those guys could be one of the best hitters in the NL next year. Like
I
they've
forgot
done
that Shohei's going to pitch. I forgot that he's a starting pitcher because he just won the MVP as a hitter and went 50-50.
50-50.
I forgot that he's a starting pitcher. That's a joke. Glasnow, Snell, Yamamoto, Shohei, and the plethora of options behind him. Which River Ryan is my favorite. Bobby Miller, who the hell knows? Like
The vibes on that team are also just immaculate. Hey, Blake Snell engaged last night.
thought he was already engaged. Didn't know that. I thought that was like a reenactment, but
Maybe it was. I don't know. I just saw it on his Instagram, and that's
I mean, he is the man.
Blake Snell's Instagram might be my most visited internet page.
Evan Longoria.
That's you. That's
By the
that's
way, he Longoria texted me. I just put a post out on the gram of my holidays, and he texted me. He said, "You're so hot these days, man." And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I'm aging so well,
dude. Puppy in Fortnite. Look at you,
dude. I've
people
been
change,
playing. I've never been a video game my entire life, but like
right?
kids are playing, so I'm like, oh, I want to mess around with it. I sent you the picture of Isla, which is
Yeah, locked in.
locked in with some shades.
Holy smokes. Um, I guess Trev. I don't even know if we want to do Glaber. Cool. I guess for both of these NL West signings, there's some ripple effects. I mentioned the Padres in passing. Like, what do you do? Like, the Giants are rolling bags out there. The D-backs are rolling bags out there. The Dodgers are talking about them as a super team. The
I think
Padres,
so. The
what are they up?
Padres and the Twins are like a couple of the teams that haven't signed anyone to a major league deal, right? There's like 4 or
I
5 teams that
believe
have not
so.
done that. Pittsburgh Pirates, I think, are one of them, which is hilarious. No,
Yeah.
they signed Kutch.
Yeah, he's back. My
Shut
Uncle Rick, big Pirates fan, loves Kutch, not loving their offseason so far. But I
Yeah,
guess
dude.
the,
They
the
brought
two
Tyler Wade back. That's the only move to the major league level that they brought.
the two teams that jump out the most in this episode to me, besides obviously the teams that signed, are the Padres and the Orioles, bro. Like I've never been an Orioles hater. Beautiful stadium, whatever. When the Orioles are good, it's good for baseball. Like that place rocks, and the Baby O's. Like we all kind of got roped in, dude.
Baby J's, baby O's. Let's go, O's.
Where do they even go, Trev? Our guy Jack?
I don't think there was like a great
Right.
relationship there.
He ended up sat in the bullpen. Like, he didn't. And we're talking about players getting contracts. Like, I don't know. Jack's like, he's turned into a Vegas guy. Like, I don't. Does he want to live in Baltimore? I have no clue. Is he going to sign with the A's? So get ready for their move.
Oh my gosh, I don't think so.
That's not how. But I mean, if you're Baltimore, I guess Santander could come back, and we'd like that. But that's still getting back to where they were, which was an unsuccessful. I don't know, man. If I'm Baltimore, I'm freaking out a little bit. A lot of the prizes of this offseason are off the table. If I'm the Padres, I'm just wondering what the heck are we gonna do? And then I don't know if Coach Ballgame was yanking my chain, but supposedly the Cubs were in on Corbin. The Blue Jays, like, dude, what are they doing? Like, I don't know.
You have to pivot, dude. I mean, you're not always going to land the people that you go after, obviously. And the Blue Jays, I think the Blue Jays are in the craziest situation in baseball because they have these two looming free agents. And then their whole identity after that is playing good defense. And that just hasn't really worked out for them. I thought they were poised to go on an absolute run. I like the rotation that they built up there. I like the guys they brought in. It just hasn't worked, dude. So yeah, in a weak AL, they're probably going to have to trade and then try to recoup and retool, I guess, is what you'd say, because even in this weak AL, they're just not there.
Bizarre, man.
We keep hearing how much money they have, so why don't they just go? Let's keep the gang together and add on, because the alternative is what I just said. You trade Vladdy, you trade Bo, and you figure it out after that.
Right.
That's your team identity.
Golly. Well, I guess we will see, Coach.
Last question. Gleyber takes the Tigers out of Alex Bregman watch?
Yes. I was a little surprised that all the Bregman Tigers stuff. Like, I get that they're a young, burgeoning team, but like, they're still paying Baez a ton of money, and they have these other infielders that for me, that never made sense. Gleyber's done some hitting in Detroit for 1 year. I mean, we talk about the 1 year pitcher deals like that. For 1 year for Gleyber to try to run it out there and see if you could have a second baseman with an OPS in the eights. Like, I like that for Detroit. The weird part is moving Colt Keith to first for me. But again, I guess that's the little bit of frustration for me, is because I love sports, Trev. You know this.
You do.
Record Wake and Jake. I'm always watching sports. I love sports. Part I love about it is fair competition. That, the Tigers signing Gleyber, that was a big deal for them. Like, 1 year, 15 mil. And we just mentioned Conforto as like a filler piece for the Dodgers, and that was a bigger contract. So I don't know. Like, I want to get excited about the Tigers and Gleyber, and man, like Carpenter, Gleyber, like they might hit a little bit at the top of that lineup. But it also, at a certain point, it feels like we're talking about bringing a knife to a gunfight.
Well, what they did at the end of last season was crazy, with basically having one and a half starting pitchers and just running out bullpen games. Even Hinch himself said it's not sustainable through 162. They just kind of caught fire, and I don't want to say got lucky, but they caught fire.
Right.
They had the right idea for those 1.5 to 2 months. They went out and executed exactly how they had to execute. They did it. So they do, like, bringing Jack back would be a huge deal for them too. I think that would be like, okay, the Tigers are still very much in contention to win the AL Central and to go on a run again like they did last year. But they have to do something like that. But I like Gleyber to them. I do.
I do too. I think him and the Yankees needed to get away from each other. I know it's not the perfect hitter's park for Gleyber, but he's hit some. I think he's hit a couple of his longest home runs in Detroit, so maybe he sees it well there. Who knows? But Gleyber for a year. He's going to let that goatee grow in. He's going to hit. And hey, Trev, you want to talk about full circle? Producer Rob Scirocco, Jolly Olive getting in the mix. Without hearing this episode, Jolly Olive tweeted out Jordan Montgomery for Spencer Torkelson. A little change of scenery for Torque. Was he an Arizona State guy? Am I remembering that right?
Arizona State guy.
Tigers get a pitcher. D-backs get a high upside first baseman. I don't know.
24 years old, Spencer Torkelson?
That's a trade that if
he's 25, excuse me, he's 25 years old.
He gets that one swing coach and it all comes together. That trade can hurt you real quick. So I don't know about that, but
he's a free agent in 2029. Yeah, they wouldn't.
No.
Because they wouldn't eat the salad. They wouldn't eat Arizona would have to eat the salary. And the whole point of this is they don't want to take the money on. So no. Maybe they have to add somebody.
Jolly, you're an idiot.
I'm getting blasted by the sun over here. Look at this.
Okay.
Hey, last thing for me.
Sure.
Happy 35th birthday to Austin Barnes.
Wow.
Wow. You're on the team. My bad. Happy birthday.
I can't believe you tried to take Austin Barnes off the Dodgers, dude.
Dude, I'm trying to figure it out. You're like, what can they do next? I'm like, well, a little upgrade at backup catcher would be nice. I don't think that's. That's not way off, but
when Austin Barnes wants to hang it up, he might just slide into Dave Roberts' bench coach, and then he might just take the gig. It just seems like that's what's happening.
He's gonna be like, "Don't let that guy have a media pass."
Isn't it funny that Dave Roberts became a good manager?
He's a Hall of Famer. He's a Hall of Fame
manager. Good stolen base.
I used to have some really strong takes on this show, and one of them was my manager take.
Right.
You gotta have a pretty good team to be a good manager.
Right.
And the really good managers will tell you that straight off the rip. Jim Leland will tell you that straight off.
No.
Me and Jim Leland, Nick Punto.
New Year's Eve, ripping darts. Hey, this is probably our last Talkin' Baseball before the New Year's. So hey, thank you to everyone. It's been another fun one, and it's almost going to be time to gear up soon. We're going to be doing team profiling projections. We gotta get Breggy home. We gotta get Jack home. Pete Alonso's out there. That's 40 homers. Someone sign him. If we don't see you, thank you guys so much. From the Ploufs and their puppy and Trev playing Fortnite, Rob Scirocco and everyone. Thank you guys, and we'll see you soon, I guess.
Jake sucks.